Oh, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fantasmagorium show. On today's show, Tatiana Maslany is Jennifer Walters again in The She Hulk, but now with more Tim Roth as the Abomination. Also, there's a new Fletch trailer. John Hamm, let's go.
And we are live.
Ahoy, Steve. How are you today?
Hey, Scotty. Good. Your mic is really low.
Well, we can fix that right now. How am I sounding now?
Better. Better.
Good. Glad to hear it. Oh, apologies to anyone who is a fan of the Phantasmagorium show with our fluctuating timelines, but you're not my real mom. In other news,
In other news, you're not my real mom either.
True story.
So yeah, like we said that we kind of touched on this last week that the timing of these are going to be a little, up and down. We're going to try to do the 1 o'clock, but like today we ran a little late, 30 minutes late. Sometimes they'll probably be more like 4 or 5 Pacific time. It's just whenever we can fit it into the schedule.
Right.
But
and we're always happy to have these conversations. We're glad that we can share these conversations with you, but sometimes we just don't show up on time, or we show up early, or we're like wizards.
yeah,
We're never late nor early. We show up when we're supposed to.
Life gets in the way a lot. Real life.
Mm-hmm.
So
True story.
Disney Plus dropped another episode. Disney Plus and Marvel dropped another episode of She-Hulk. First, before we get into the episode proper, what did you think of, just kind of high level overall? What did you think of the episode, Scotty?
I liked it. I think it's getting into what we're probably going to be seeing throughout the series. There was a bow from Bruce. So I think he has gone to Sakaar now. That is all we have to deal with Bruce until maybe the finale.
Sure.
But I think that now we're just going to get into lawyer stuff.
Yeah. Which what we both kind of thought this show was going to be anyways. I liked it too. I didn't think it was, it wasn't, the best thing I've ever saw. It wasn't horrible. It was just kind of there. I did laugh out loud once during during the show, which is good. I didn't do that in the first episode, but I did think, although I did like it, I thought that, and it did give us kind of an idea of what this show is going to be. Kind of a crisp 28, 30-minute, sitcom, which is exactly what it should be. I liked the fourth wall breaks, but I thought that this they could have dropped these 2 episodes together in the beginning. I know last week I said the first 3 episodes. Haven't seen episode 3 yet, so maybe we'll see about that. But for sure, these 2 should have dropped together. I think, because this is actually the setup, right? We had a good setup in the first episode. The second setup or the second episode is still setting up. Kind of, we'll get into it, but Jennifer loses her job. She's got to go find a new one. Nobody wants to hire. This whole, so it's still a setup, kind of getting us to the place where she ends up at the end of episode 2, which I thought would have been a strong opening. These 2 episodes for the premiere. I don't think it's really. I don't think it really matters. I think most people that want to watch She-Hulk are in. I think that first episode did that for them. There was a couple in the first. We talked about this last week. But there was a couple of very strong, writer's room yelling at the audience things that happened that I did not care for. In this episode, I didn't find any of that. And maybe I just missed it, but I didn't see any of that. So anybody that was worried that every episode you were going to get yelled at for being, I don't know, not, not being a man or not being a woman, you know what I mean? By the writer's room, that didn't happen, which is a good thing. I was afraid we were going to get heavy-handed with that in each episode, and it didn't happen. So maybe they got that out of their system. The writers got that out of their system in the first pilot episode. Now we can just tell good stories, well written.
Well, and we can only hope. And I agreed with you about the first episode. There was writers' room yelling at us, but again, I think that I don't know if you've noticed, but the internet likes to pick things apart
Yes,
mercilessly,
yes,
and I think that a lot of people ran into that portion of the episode and then decided that the whole thing was a dumpster fire.
hmm
Whereas I am allowed to not like one part of a show and still think overall it's good.
yeah.
And but also I think that it's going to be, and again, we've only seen the first two episodes. I think it's going to be a matter of Jennifer Walters, little Jennifer Walters, becoming more comfortable with herself and coming out of her shell through the advantage of She-Hulk,
Of She-Hulk.
um, as opposed to she's going to use her Yas Queen powers to make sure that the world is right.
Yeah,
Um, I think it's just a workplace comedy. And again,
yeah.
I agree with you. If they had dropped the first two episodes, I don't know how many episodes we're going to get. Eight, ten,
I think it's
six,
nine episodes.
nine.
Yeah,
Okay. I think that set up the character, set up the environment, and then you off to the races.
yeah.
And that would have been a I think it would have alleviated some of the I don't like it, slam my fists onto things
Well, I
kind
mean, I
of.
think there's two corners of the internet that aren't going to like it. The ones that there's people out there that just do not like um, the way that Disney Marvel is portraying their comic book loved characters, and they don't like any of it, and that's fine. So that's one portion. I think the another portion is they latch on to one or two, like in the first episode, one or two sentences. They ride those for clicks, and
Mhm.
they hate. Oh, look, this is going to be horrible because of X, and that's their, they run that headline, all day, every day, 24/7, so they can get, a bunch of clicks and make ad revenue, which is unfortunate because that's not, so far, that's not what this show is. Um, so far, I'm not saying it can't turn into that. It absolutely could become a complete dumpster fire. We saw what happened with Picard, where, season 1 and 2, especially season 2, when the first episode was good, second episode was decent, and then it went, right off the cliff. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it hasn't. That doesn't seem to be the driving theme uh, right now for She-Hulk, which is good because, like we said, and like we say all the time, we want good stories well told. That's all. Just make them good. Um, I do like the fact that in this episode, they meaning the showrunners and Jennifer Walters says they bring up the derivative character meme, which was awesome. I love that they brought that up in this episode. That was cool. I like when you can, kind of look inward and kind of poke fun at yourself. That's this character. If you're going to break the fourth wall, kind of like a Deadpool and like She-Hulk does in the comics, you got to be self-referential. You got to look inward. You got to be able to say, poke fun at yourself, and that was cool. The one laugh out loud that for me that got me was when Jennifer's in the bar and she's getting fired by her boss, and she turns, which was an excellent shot, by the way, when she turns from She-Hulk back to Jennifer, and she goes from not drunk to obviously wasted to slipping right off the bar stool onto the floor. I laughed out loud at that. I don't know, for some reason, it just got me, and obviously that's what their intent was.
Hmm.
So me,
But
I'm not a big comedy guy, so I don't laugh out loud at comedy. But I do respect subtle comedy, and I saw a lot of subtle comedy in this episode, which I really enjoyed.
well, and yeah, and it was. I think that with the introduction of more male characters, like the DA who fires her, was not unsympathetic.
No,
He he was. It was a response to the liability to the DA's office, which I thought made perfect sense. And again, in the comics, Jennifer Walters starts out as a prosecutor and then has to go over to defense because it's the only place she can use her celebrity as She-Hulk.
right?
Um, and then even with the I found out what the acronym was for the new law firm, but I forget. But in terms of the new law firm, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if it's going to be like a John Wick from the Drew Carey show, or if it's going to be sort of we find out that it's a shady law firm. Again, this is all exploring the story before we make any decisions that
Right.
that person is going to be the bad guy. We don't know yet.
Right.
Um, and then also when you have the great Mark Lynn Baker returning to television, although he's probably been on television a lot. Mark Lynn Baker, cousin Larry Appleton from Perfect Strangers.
So
Thank you for
good.
coming back.
When I so he plays Jennifer's dad, and when he first comes on the screen, I was like, oh man, perfect casting. I had no idea who was going to play the mom and dad, or even if we were going to see the mom and dad. I figured we would at some point, but man, when he popped on screen, it was a big smile came on my face. I'm like, hey, look at that, perfect casting.
Absolutely. And then you got the dumbass extended family
Sure.
stoner guy who is
Yeah.
a manager at Best Buy. And as a person who has been a part of the Big Blue Embrace, that is exactly who is the manager at your local Best Buy.
Right. And Put's uncle.
Mm-hmm.
The uncle's a Putz for sure.
But
Yeah.
I don't think that it is a situation where it's going again heavy-handed writers' room yelling at you. I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think we
was
are
great,
now.
and I was happy to see that they didn't do that in this episode. This was just a regular good, just like I said, a half-hour sitcom. It's not slapsticky fall down funny, although there was a pratfall, right there, but it's not. It's I like that it's subtle. And we there was some cool stuff in here. In fact, did I hear a reference to the Eternal that's coming out of or stuck in the ocean? I think in this episode.
I
On the
I
TV?
did watch a Easter eggs video, and apparently in the news
In the
tickers
newspaper, right?
and in the sidebars of the
Yeah.
newspaper, there were references to a couple of things. There were references to the giant man sticking out of the ocean. There was
Yep.
man with knife hands caught in bar brawl. So that is, technically, if you want to take it as such, that is the first canonical reference to Wolverine in the
Wolverine?
MCU.
Yeah, knife hands. Yeah, so there are some cool little Easter eggs in there. Do we want to step through the episode, Scott?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it starts off right where the last episode ended. It's just after the case. Jen has taken off her busted ass business suit, and now she's wearing just sort of like sweats. She goes into a bar where everybody is chanting She-Hulk. Oh, right. There are the news report, which does have the references that we just spoke of, and also just because he demanded it in the video, the Easter egg and references and things you may have missed video was Screen Crush with Ryan Airy.
Yeah.
For you, sir. I'm not going to steal without telling you.
Yeah,
I'm like
Screen
Dante
Crush is
from
great.
Clerks.
Obviously.
But yeah, so they have on the courtroom steps or courthouse steps discussing what happened from an eyewitness. The eyewitness is like, so she turned into a superhero. By the way, not bad, which I thought was kind of, oh yeah, no, I am a Hulkster, I guess, a she Hulkster.
She Hulkster?
I do find Jennifer Walters in Hulk form attractive. Sue me. So
He calls
and
so the guy calls her Chick Hulk.
Chick
and then
Hulk.
and then the Johnny on the spot reporter says, She Hulk?
Exactly.
And there you go. Johnny on the spot.
And so then we get that's when we go to the bar,
Yeah.
the lawyer bar where everybody's chanting She-Hulk, and the paralegal from the first episode, and obviously going to be best friend Nikki, I think her name is,
Yeah.
says you might as well give them what they want. And this again, this is sort of like the Jen coming out of her shell and being like, I have to be the Hulk. And I think she's going to come into her own and probably have to deal with it was in you all along or something. But she's
then
not
what
comfortable.
did she say? I just don't like derivative characters or something like
Something
that.
like that.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, such a derivative character or something like that. And I'm like, sweet.
Yeah. So she goes in, and she is all, well, she's She-Hulk. And then we get Dennis. Dennis, the snotty man co-lawyer from the first episode,
Douche.
saying, douche. Um, and he's says, what'd you do that for? How'd you get superpowers just to make yourself look better in the district attorney's office? How did you get those powers? Nepotism, probably. Anywhere. There's a hot chick over there. I want to talk to it. And I was like, okay, that was an eye roll for me.
Yeah.
But from that, that's when the DA comes in and says it was a mistrial based on you defending the lives of the jury. And so, because you're going to be a liability based on your powers, it's not that you did anything wrong. It's just that you're going to be a liability to the district attorney's office. So she is fired. At which point, we get a montage of interviews pretty much saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So then, as trying to find, there we go. Then we get back to Jen's apartment. And this is, I liked this because I kind of was like, it doesn't look like her furniture is reinforced. But then I realized Jen doesn't have to reinforce her furniture
Right.
because she can turn back into Jen whenever she wants.
Yep.
And so, yeah. So she's looking for a job and then also looking for ways to start fresh. She wants to be or she's looking at being a mascot at a theme park. And it's like, eye on the prize. Eye on the prize. And then I go foggy. You watch the first 18 minutes. What happened now?
She. What happened? What happens right after that? I can't remember.
Because I know there's
exactly. How does? I mean, obviously, she doesn't. She's not going to be a mascot, right?
No, she's not going to be a mascot, and perhaps it's then when she goes on the interviews, but then she gets a call from Bruce, or yeah, she gets a call. No, she calls Bruce because Bruce is.
She gets the offer first. So what happens is she's sitting.
Oh, right.
She's bummed out, right? So because she can't get a job, so she's sitting in a bar, she's having a drink, and the defense attorney who she was up against in episode 1, I don't know his name off the bat. I'm still kind of bad with all the names, but so he walks into the bar and basically just offers her the job. It's like, yeah, I want you to come work for me, blah, 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 blah. At first she thinks it's a joke, right? Like, you're joking, right? And then no, so, he says, no, I want you to, basically come work for us. And she's like, yeah, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Basically, you start tomorrow. But before that, she says, she's like, yes. Oh, wait, no, that's right. So, no, that's right. I'm trying to keep it all straight. It's not even that long, and it's just. So she kind of tentatively agrees, and he walks out of the bar. She has a drink that he had bought for her, and I think that pretty much switches to the telephone call because she wants to talk to Bruce. I think it's Bruce. Is that the telephone call, or did she go into the office first?
No, then she goes.
That's right.
We skipped over the family dinner.
Oh, that's right.
After she gets fired, after she goes on the job interviews. I swear I saw it. I didn't read a Wikipedia page.
We're really good at these things.
Yeah. Next time I'll take notes. They go to the family dinner, and Mark Lynn-Baker, as Dad, says, I know that you got fired. I told everybody not to mention it. She walks to the dinner table, and the idiot cousin, is he an idiot uncle?
Yeah.
Whatever. Family member says, oh, you got fired. And the dad goes like, I told you not to mention it. And it's like, no, you said mention it. And so why would I say to mention it? And so there's frustration and the family dynamic. Her uncle calls her Jenny, and she looks at the camera. She's like, nobody calls me that.
Right.
And then Dad goes, all right, so can you just give me a hand with a couple of things? They go out to the garage, and she's like, well, what do you need help with? And he says, no, I just wanted to get you away from there. And it's a really supportive scene where, and I think it also does showcase Jennifer's lawyerness
Yeah.
and selfishness to a certain extent because she just basically keeps talking. He's trying to be supportive and says, you know what, you did the right thing. Um, don't worry about it. You're still standing, and now you can move forward. And I thought that that was really nice. And also, I thought that there were some nice little references at the dinner as well, where it's like, you know, that Hawkeye guy.
Yeah.
When he shoots his arrows, does he get them afterwards?
Does he
Does
go
he just
around
leave
collecting
them?
them all?
Doesn't seem very safe.
Right.
So anyway, we go to. That's when we go to the bar. That's when the lawyer comes because she's having a drink, and the bartender says, "Do you want another one?" She's like, "Nope, I'm unemployed. I'm balling like an unemployed person." And then that's when the lawyer comes in and says, "Can I buy you a drink?" And she's like, "Uh-huh."
Mm-hmm.
That's why I like her. And so says, "Okay, you're hired if you want the job." She is tentative for a moment, says, I accept, as long as I can pick my own paralegal." And that I kind of chuckled. It's like, I don't care who your
Yeah.
paralegal is.
Right.
And
Was that
so
at
she
the bar
goes.
or was that later?
I think that no, that was at the bar. That
Oh,
was at the
okay.
bar during the negotiation.
That's
Excuse me
what
for
I
just
was
one
going to
moment.
bring up, and then I thought, wait, did that happen then, or did that happen the next day? So then then the next day she's sitting there in his
The smoke
office,
show.
right? And he basically tells her who her first client is, and in fact, it's none other than this guy right here.
Hey.
So
Yeah.
Blonsky,
Blonsky. Emil Blonsky, otherwise known as the Abomination.
the Abomination. So
Uh,
so obviously that's a huge conflict of interest, right, for her.
But it doesn't seem to matter because Blonsky has signed a conflict waiver.
That's right.
So they go to the East Coast Super Max supervillain prison,
Correct.
and there is an echo of Silence of the Lambs, which I was like, are they actually just ripping this off? And then they are self-referential. Jen's like, oh, what's going to happen if I do? Like, it's like, don't cross the yellow line, stay to the wall, don't touch the glass. Oh, what's he going to do? Serve me up with fava beans and a nice Chianti? And the
This is
guard
serious,
is like, this is a prison.
right?
No. So she's like, oh, right. Um, and so goes in and meets with Emil Blonsky, who has a ridiculously sound argument as to why he feels that he has been reformed. He was following orders from the United States government to bring in a fugitive, pumped full of an experimental super serum that he thought was going to make him into Captain America, which I thought was kind of, I was like, hey, that Captain America wasn't even around. But then the legend would have maintained. So I thought it was, in terms of the continuity, I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
Oh, and then also referencing, because we have Emil Blonsky, one of the things that may be confusing about this is that Mark Ruffalo was not the Incredible Hulk during the Incredible Hulk. It was Edward Norton.
Right.
And so, but oh, well, no, we haven't gotten to the phone call. So anyway, that was something, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to address this. So Blonsky explains his situation. He says that he's made some pen pals on the outside. He wants to just get back to living his life and move forward. He doesn't hold any grudges. He's been writing haikus for all of his victims. And it's time, and also considering the circumstances of the manipulation of the American government, maybe they can cut him a break.
Yeah.
And Jen actually seems okay with this. Jen's
And
like, oh,
he told her he thought he was the good guy.
mm,
I thought I was the good guy, which most villains believe they are the hero or the good guy in their own story.
absolutely. And so there
But
is
it
the
sound reasonable argument.
he did, but he still seemed a little smarmy.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's just because he is.
Because he is. He's Emil Blonsky. He's still him. Russian-born, English raised,
English raised.
and one of the top decorated Special Forces members who was subjected to these experiments. And also, he has the ability, much like Jen, to change at will or not change at all as he sees fit. And
At least that's what he says.
yeah,
Now,
Don't.
because of the cage that he's in,
Mm.
I don't know if there's some kind of Stark tech that's keeping him from changing at will, or if he's telling the truth. We don't know
Well,
yet.
yet we will get to something else in the future.
Yeah.
And that is apparently the conflict of conscience as to whether or not Jen herself wants to defend Blonsky.
Right.
So that's when she goes back to her apartment and she calls Bruce and says, "Here's the deal. I got a new job, but I will have to defend Emil Blonsky." And there's sort of a, huh. And she, again, talking over Bruce,
Yeah.
saying, "This is how it is. This is how it is. This is how it is. Uh, I don't think that it's fair because he tried to kill you and all this jazz." And then Bruce is like, "Well, it sounds like you're just calling to say that you took the job and you're going to do
Mhm.
it." And she says yes. And Bruce even says that Blonsky had sent him a nice letter a
Yeah.
little while back, wrote
And a
him a very
haiku.
nice haiku, which
Oh,
I thought was fun. And so then Jen says, "Well, are you going to be coming to L.A. in the near future?" And Bruce says, "Not for a minute." And then you see him on the Sicarian courier ship going off into space.
yeah,
So,
which was weird.
well, that's the
I,
life of an Avenger, I
I
suppose.
suppose.
Um,
Is that the same ship that they crashed into in episode one?
I think so, yeah.
I'm assuming, right? Whoever
It
it was,
looked bigger, but
whoever was flying the ship must have found the Hulk
mhm.
in Mexico
And
at some
yeah,
point.
at some point. Well, it's a Sicarian courier vessel. It's meant to deliver messages. So,
Sure.
and so at which point they get off the phone, for lack of a better term, Bruce warps into space, and Jen calls her boss and says, "I accept. I'm happy to do so." And I think he's actually got a really good case. And it's 100% in the bag. And her boss says, "All right, glad to hear it. Very good. Excellent. You may want to turn on the news.
On the news.
I'll see you tomorrow." And so Jen turns on the TV for her news, which is adorable.
Hmm.
And apparently, a viral video has been released of Blonsky cage fighting with Wong in the events of Shang-Chi.
Yep.
Just a reminder that this is the 11th episode of your favorite sitcom that is started with Iron Man, and you have to see every episode leading up to this. Um,
11th.
and so, uh, yeah, there's footage of the cage fight, and that does put a sort of monkey in the wrench as to how well this defense is going to go. That she had 100% in the bag, and we cut to credits, and
Yep.
then we get the mid-credit scene and the things that Jen's dad wanted her to do at the family dinner because she is She-Hulk.
Yep.
Need to bring in about 6 or 7 giant water cooler bottles full of
Yep.
water, hang the flat screen TV, and hold the car up while they
Martin
attempt to
fixed the
change a
tire.
tire.
Yep.
And I thought it was cute.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't as good as the first mid-credit scene in the first episode, but it was good. It fit the episode,
Yes.
and I do like the credits. I like the watercolor kind of artistry in
Mm-hmm.
the credits, so I dig that. I do like that both Marvel and Lucasfilm Star Wars are doing that with their post credit or with their credits. They're showing art and actually making it more pleasurable to watch than a black screen with words running up. So scrolling. So I do like that, especially if we have to wait around to see a mid credit scene. At least make
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
pleasurable.
Well, and it just I haven't watched all of the Marvel shows, but it's sort of I get what you're saying in terms of
Yeah,
having those watercolor, the comic book art. I thought that that was really great. Um,
cool.
but
And
uh,
it's almost a mix between comic book art uh, and the where the
court artist.
Court art, like the artist that sits in court and does the drawings because there's no camera allowed. So some of them are watercolored and some of them are like, inked. But it's almost a mix of that. That kind of harkens back to that court art. I don't know. There's a name for it. I just can't pull it out right now. I think there's a specific name for that type of artist. But
I think there is. Cool. I don't know what it is either.
Yeah,
I've never been to court, so
yeah.
But yeah, I know, right? And so yeah, but I'm thinking back to like the beginning of WandaVision. Just as you bring up the end credits, I thought that the impact of the end of every episode of WandaVision was sort of complemented by the closing song, which. Yes. But there was no mid credit in those.
No.
Not very often, or maybe in the last
one. I think once. They haven't done a lot of mid or post credit scenes in the shows, which is why this is great that we're getting one in every episode. At least that's what we were told. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and also
I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a strong second, pretty strong second episode. A little more foundation laying. And not off the rails humor, which is good for me because that gets a little much for me, and like especially if we have if it's going to be a quick half-hour comedy sitcom, I don't need back to back pratfalls and crazy comedy like that.
It doesn't have to be a farce, and also it lends itself to the sort of style of humor that I enjoyed in Sensational She-Hulk, the sarcasm and whatnot.
I have a feeling,
fourth wall breaking.
From what I've seen so far, it looks like they're taking they hit the writers' room specifically are pulling from John Byrne's run. It's almost it's not frame by frame or shot by shot, but I think a lot of the inspiration comes from that run.
Well, and again, with the things you may have missed video that I did watch as research, apparently the subsequent runs by Dan Slott as well.
Dan Slott's good too.
Are referenced, or at least in terms of the spirit of it. So it seems to be an amalgamation of many different She-Hulk runs, which is great. Appeal to as broad an audience of the She-Hulk as you can, so that everyone has something that they can recognize. And I did enjoy walking through the law office the first time with her sort of narrating it, while you did get reactions from the rest of the crew. And also there was at least one or two catty and backstabbing girls who are sort of like sneering at her and being like, people are going to think the only reason I got this job is because I'm She-Hulk.
Yeah,
and
that's pretty much
that makes sense.
Yeah, because that's pretty much why you got the job.
Yeah,
because she was pretty. I think she didn't realize right off the hop. You got me saying that now instead of right off the bat. Right off the bat, that she was actually gonna be the superhero or super powered lawyer, right? She thought she was just going to come and be a lawyer at this new law firm. And no, she's heading up a division devoted to superpowered people.
Yes. And it'll be, well, now that we know that there is somewhat of a scandal in terms of Blonsky breaking out of jail to go to his cage fighting extracurricular activities, Wong is going to be involved. It's the next person.
Right.
In that, it's the person in the viral video with him.
Yeah. So I fully expect to see Wong in the next episode.
I would too. Yes, I do too.
And from what I've heard, he's pretty predominant from here on out.
Which is great.
Yeah. Love Wong.
Yeah. And hey, it's always nice to see the Sorcerer Supreme, but I think we even speculated last week as to whether or not we were going to see a Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't think so, but it'll be neat if we do.
Maybe. See, I don't know, man. I'd never say never. The season finale, I think we might see a Doctor Strange. I don't know for sure. We'll see.
Well, and it's in terms of the hierarchy.
As far as cameos go, that makes sense. But there's some opportunity in between, episode 3 and episode 9 to pull in some other characters too, some minor characters that maybe need some help with their with their with their law with the law. Need a
Yes,
lawyer's help.
I
Plus,
am looking
we
forward.
know we're getting Matt Murdock.
Yes, which makes
So
sense. Fellow lawyers.
for I don't know why he's going to be in L.A., but I guess they'll tell me.
Yes. Well,
We'll figure it
maybe
out.
Wong. Maybe Wong needs a lawyer.
Maybe.
Wong's New York based.
Yep.
Um, but and the thing is, and my apologies to the audience and to you, Steve. Usually, I'm a little bit more on the button when it comes to recapping. This was
Me
a
too.
tight episode. It was 23 minutes long, sitcom length,
Yeah.
in and out, premise, joke, conclusion, next time on.
Yeah.
And yeah. How do you deal with becoming a Hulk when you, first things first, you got to tell your family. And that
Yeah.
is something that Jen admonished Bruce for in the first episode. It's like you never show up for family dinners. And
Right.
so I thought it was good.
Me
I
too.
yeah, I don't even know if I didn't I say I think I said B minus last time,
You did.
and I think I'm gonna go with B. Like it's better than last week in my opinion. Not
Ooh.
much, not much, but it better.
So you're going solid. I think I'm right there. I'm gonna ditto. I'm gonna ditto.
All right,
Solid B. It was a solid B effort. It didn't blow my hair back, but it didn't need to. It was just a solid episode.
but without it being in the MCU, without anything else, like if you had just made like what is it? There's an old Saturday Night Live skit with Phil Hartman, and he's caveman lawyer, and he's like, I don't know your
Uh-huh.
fancy modern ways, but like that's what I feel like we're going to be getting. It's like, what if you had a 7 foot green woman who is superpowered, who is your lawyer, and this is the trials and tribulations of her life.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. No, and
I'm
this is.
fine.
I think it's great. I
Mm,
think it's a great addition to the MCU as long as it stays on track and doesn't go off the rails. I think it's going to be a great addition to the MCU and the pantheon of MCU TV streaming shows.
well, and aside from WandaVision and maybe Loki. Like I would say, though, WandaVision and Loki in this so far are my three favorite. I never saw
Yeah,
Hawkeye, sorry, and
I
I
like
never saw Miss Marvel, sorry.
hated that show,
I'm just not. It's not my
and I didn't
demographic.
really care for Falcon and the Winter Snowman either.
It was just boring and dry,
Yeah, yeah,
except for the John Walker shield pounding.
right.
But yeah, no, I like Captain Wilson, but anyway.
Yep.
But no, I think this is something that I can stick with, and also the people who find the humor cringy, don't look at the rest of my sitcom appreciations. Like it's
I
comedy,
do.
it's
Oh, look,
subjective.
that goes to the fact. I like the fact that they're playing with genres still. They did it.
Mm,
They're doing that in the movies. They've always done that, in the movies. I like the fact that they're doing that with TV kind of stereotypical genre
mm,
fare, where they're into the law procedural. Maybe we'll get the X Files in the MCU with a couple of characters from WandaVision, which would be awesome. Maybe we'll get something like that down the road at some point. But I like that
mm.
they're playing with these different genres, even in the streaming series, and not
Yeah.
just in the movies.
Well,
We
and one little Easter egg that I did notice that I didn't steal from anybody.
Uh-huh.
When she's at the bar and she's finishing her beer after the family dinner, there's TVs in the bar because what bar do you go to that doesn't have TVs? You know what's playing on the TV?
I didn't notice.
Ally McBeal.
Yeah, well, perfect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was
I
like,
thought
okay,
this
all
show-
right, I guess that reference is there now.
Yeah. Should we go to the chat?
So, actually, but first, before we go to the chat, I just wanted to add this. This is my personal, my personal hubris and conceit. There is a new trailer. I don't know if you've seen it, but John Hamm has a new movie coming out at the beginning of September with one of my favorite characters of all time, Erwin M. Fletcher. He is playing Fletch in the new Fletch movie called Confess Fletch. It looks great. I can't wait to see it. And it also, not only John Hamm, but it's got John Slattery, which is also, one of my favorite shows, Mad Men. So there's There's a reunification of two of my favorite actors from that show, and John Hamm and Fletch. Today is Christmas.
I'm glad you're excited for it, because my excitement level for this movie sits at around 0.
You can have some of mine. I have too
Sure.
much.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
do. All right.
So, yes, with that being said, I just wanted to let everybody else know.
Okay. That's what we're
Phil.
here for. We're here to
Hello.
inform. Oh yeah.
Jens Peter, they're in the closet. Well, if that's where you are, Jens, you can come out anytime you want. Sorry, I've got, there we go. Maybe I'm back up again. Jens says, wait till you get into it. I can't wait. The closet or the
Awesome.
show?
I'm not sure.
Phil says, well, a lot of the critics got the first 4 episodes, and I think more than one should have been dropped. It was just okay to me, nothing special. Fair enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think these absolutely the first 2, and we'll see next week if I think the first 3 out of 9. If you do a third and do the first 3, I think that would have been good. But definitely the first 2 should have been dropped together, in my opinion.
And Jens Peter says, workplace for feminist propaganda. Gotta disagree with you. I don't think it was feminist propaganda in this episode.
Nope.
And if you
absolutely
you
got a couple of instances in the first episode, which we covered, but not in this episode, which is good because we didn't think that broke the show for us. But if they would have kept doing it every episode, that would start. It would start to. I would probably go into this is breaking the show mode. But for right now, we're good.
Well, and then also you have to, Jens, if you've seen the show, kudos. Would love to get your opinion on the show itself.
Yeah.
But Black Phillip's Law, if you haven't seen it,
Yep.
can't say much about
Can't
it.
say much about it or anything.
Jens goes on, says, you can't see the soy feminist agenda. They're doing a good job off hiding it from appearing too much in your face. Not in the first episode. There was twice when it actually just punched me in the face.
It was definitely not hiding it. I don't think they're hiding it. I don't see a feminist agenda here. I
don't think that,
other than it's a female led character show, which is, look, is Hollywood swinging heavily in that way? Absolutely, they absolutely are. And is it an agenda? It absolutely is. But the argument is for the last 100 years we had a 98% male driven TV shows, movies, etc.
and
So did they swing hard the other way? Yeah, they're swinging hard the other way. Hopefully it'll balance itself out.
well, and also, your slings and arrows mean nothing to me because in 1988, 1989, I bought my first She-Hulk comic, as I mentioned last week.
Yeah.
And so you want the girl comic? And it's like, okay, fine. I guess I'm a pussy because I like girl comics. Fine, that's whatever. She's hot.
All right.
Terry A. Tiberius Mork, friend of the channel, star of the show.
Yeah.
She-Hulk is different. It's a fourth wall show. Let's just play along and see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Agreed. Antiderivative Jill is listening while driving. 2 hands on the wheel, lady.
At all times, keep your hands
10 and 2.
Keep your hands and arms and limbs inside the vehicle at all times
Until it comes to a complete stop.
Yes. Seatbelt too. Seatbelt.
Seatbelt. Hands-free devices. Black Phillips says, Cousin Larry as her dad. That's brilliant casting. It was really
was brilliant. It was so spot on. I actually, it took me aback. I'm like, fucking yeah, that's central casting right there, dude.
That was great. And Phil, I was just going to make this joke. I'm glad you got there first. But Phil says, just get Bronson Pinchot now, too. I would love to see Balky and Larry together on screen again.
He could be the crazy next door neighbor to the dad. Come out, do something.
If he shows up as like Stilt Man or something, that'd be great.
That would be cool.
Phil, do you need a rewatch of Perfect Strangers?
Or of this episode?
Maybe this episode, but I think that now that you mention it, I have to watch Perfect Strangers again.
Inquiring minds.
Jens Peter says the Eternals, not soy at all. Well, again, going back to Phil's Law, I haven't seen it. It doesn't really interest me, so I'm not uppity about it.
The Eternals was fun.
Yeah, if you liked it.
I don't agree with that. You go, girl.
Uh,
Even
Stephen
Ransom.
Ransom says, hello, Scotty R37. Hello, Stephen Ransom. Steve Foley. And the chat. Ahoy to you, sir. Thank you. Jens Peter said, she is amazing. Well, she looks good in heels. Phil says, was there an after credit scene? Yeah,
Yes, there was.
it it was about She-Hulk doing household chores
Yep.
because
Doing
she's
all the
big and
heavy
strong and
lifting
lifty,
for her family,
which is
obviously.
dope. I thought it was funny.
It was fun. It was fun.
Jens Peters says, skip over the family dinner. It's going to be soy. Soy for dinner? No, it's going to be Soylent Green, and it's made of people. Jens Peters says, don't stop a woman from talking. Well, just try not to talk over anybody. Stephen Ransom says, so She-Hulk has seen Silence of the Lambs. Yes.
Yeah. So
That
at least
film is a,
one of the writers.
that film is a thing in the MCU. Good grief, doesn't that break the universe a bit? Yes. But so does Tony Stark referencing Hulk as being the Big Lebowski when
Right.
his first villain was Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges.
Right.
So we're far beyond pop culture references breaking the MCU.
Yeah. Yeah. Tony did it first. Tony shot.
Slice Night. Steve, do you want to take Cat?
Yeah, much better episode this week. It engaged me. I'm hooked now. Awesome. That's actually really cool. Yeah, I know that Kat wasn't a huge fan of the first episode just because I wish they wouldn't have done the origin story. I think I talked about this last week too. Like, I wish that we could have just kind of jumped in, but I think kind of looking back on it and knowing for a fact that we make up, and when I say we, I'm talking people that read about this stuff every day. We engage in places like this and other places. We have our ear to the entertainment news cycle on a daily basis is less than 10% of the actual viewing public. So the other 80+%, they may not know of this origin story. So it was probably the right call to do it. I get it. It was kind of a waste for people that already know. Right. So, and that's why I feel like if you're going to do a setup origin story pilot, give us the second and third episode too, or at least the second episode. Cause this together, I think would have changed that perception that a lot of people had last week.
Well, and also I think it's with these two episodes going back to back, you set up Bruce and Jen's relationship and her origin story, and now you put her in her work environment and the primary antagonist against the Incredible Hulk in the Incredible Hulk, and Hulk is off world now, so it's She-Hulk's problem.
Yeah, She-Hulk's problem. I dig it. I like that that Kat, is hooked on the show and she likes it because I think it's a good show. We'll see how well, all we can do is take it week by week. We're watching it with everybody else, and if it sucks, we'll tell you, and if it's great, we'll tell you, and if it's just meh, we'll tell you.
Yeah. Phil says, in the Incredible Hulk movie, the serum was a form of the one Steve took. Kind of. It was a bad copy of a copy.
Yeah. But he's Abomination is right. He's absolutely, that's how they build it to him. But they build it to him. He was a hero and he was going to become a hero. It just didn't work out that way.
Slice. Well, and also he was under the command of a person with a personal vendetta against Bruce in the first place. So
that went out sideways.
Slice Knight says, so I guess Wong will need an attorney for sneaking Blonsky out to fight clubs, perhaps. I think so.
Because it sounds like that's probably what he did. Wong is making a portal and getting him out to fight, which is weird, but interesting.
Slice Knight says, I'm intrigued as to whether Blonsky is being truthful about the serum being to blame for his Harlem Rager. I recently got because they're Universal releases, they're not on Disney Plus.
Right.
I got the Blu-ray double feature of Hulk and the Incredible Hulk, and I recently rewatched it in anticipation because I knew it was going to be a Hulk heavy show. But The way that Blonsky is presenting it is very Blonsky. He didn't necessarily go into this with the best of intentions. He did demand Hulk blood to make him into the Abomination. So it's not 100% the government's.
No,
So we will
but
see.
but from a certain point of view,
Hmm, nobody is the villain in their own story.
that's
That's
right.
the truth. Kat says narratively, this felt like half an episode, which ends midway through the second act. A bit disappointing. Hmm. And I kind of, as soon as that sort of oh shit moment happened at the end of the episode, where it was like, oh, there's viral video of Blonsky being in the fight clubs wherever, and then it was like, really, we're done already, and then
Yeah,
it just light bulb went on, and I was like, oh right, sitcom.
sitcom. Yeah,
Like we're stuck in the trappings of the genre that they are attempting to sort of not to I don't want to say exploit, but
no, play in.
to play in, yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we're gonna get half-hour episodes, but
Mhm.
at least we can't complain about it. Like if they drop a 20-minute episode, well, this is 23 minutes without credits, but I that's 22 minutes. That's how
Yeah.
long a sitcom is, or at least
Yeah.
it was back in the day.
Yeah.
So.
Which is cool. I think it's going to be fine. And whether you like this format in these 28-minute chunks,
Mm.
or if you want to wait and revisit the whole thing all the way through and just kind of binge it. I think at the end we're going to be satisfied with what we got.
I'm
I,
open.
the ending was Black Phillip Alvarez says the ending was a bit abrupt. Yeah, yeah, it was.
And
But it's
the
probably as they're telling the story, as they're writing it. This is probably a good place. It was probably a good place to just clip it off and not kind of go to another storyline that's going to have to need that full 22 8 minutes, whatever it turns out to be, to tell.
well, and I was also like, aside from it's a sitcom, this is short, it's a sitcom, and then I was, because last time I was rightly pointed out incorrect as being like, is this the first time that they went pho? And it was like, no, they did it in Infinity War with Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. They did it in both of the first two Spider-Man movies. And I felt like if you're going to set up some plot at the very end of the movie and then be like, what the fuck? And then
Mhm.
just stop, I was like, but that's a whole other plot line that we're what? Okay.
Right.
So it was, it was abrupt, but there's something to be said about Antissa.
Stephen Ransom. Blonsky's rampage in Harlem is because General Ross deployed him and jabbed the serum in him. Blonsky is a pawn in this. Well, kind of.
Except for the time that he pointed a gun at the leader and asked for the big guy's blood.
Yeah.
Hang on just 1 second. 11th episode.
Yes. Yes. 11th.
My dog is turning into a terror hound.
From hell? Terror
Yes.
hound from hell. Yes. Snoopy.
Stephen Ransom says, fun fact, I was doing jury duty back in 2012 and I bumped into Joss Whedon. Huh. If I had made it onto the jury, it would have been with him. I had the opportunity to thank him for Buffy to the Avengers. That's cool.
Man. Yeah. I liked all his TV stuff. I like the Avengers stuff he did too.
Yes. And did you? We don't have to talk about Justice League.
No.
Good.
I thought he did. Actually, let's talk about that for 1 second since you brought it up. I thought he did exactly what he was asked to do by people that had no fucking clue what they were doing.
Right. How do you pick up the pieces on someone else's vision?
Well, not only that, but then and do it in this incredibly short amount of time with a deadline, no extra money, no nothing, just get it done is what they told them, so they could get their bonuses. We have a lot to say about that, but this is the She-Hulk show, and we'll just stay on point, stay on target.
We got to keep our DCs and Marvels
Yeah,
separate, but
separate.
that is a cool story, Stephen Ransom.
Yeah, it is.
Slice Knight says, right off the hop, let's go to the hop. Let's go.
Let's go to the hop.
Oh, baby.
All right. Enough of that.
Stephen Ransom says Bruce didn't show up to family dinners so that they wouldn't piss him off and get themselves smashed. I cannot imagine a Banner family Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Kat gives it a B-. Okay, that's good. I mean, coming from Kat, that's pretty high praise. She's usually pretty tough on her ratings on movies and TV shows. She's not a pushover when it comes to that kind of thing. So that's, to me, B- is probably right. It's kind of right in line with, I think, what our thinking was for this episode.
Stephen Ransom says, or have S.H.I.E.L.D. show up and interrupt family dinners. Well, exactly. When you have a containment team drop in
right
on Easter. It's no fun.
Because some purple dude's causing havoc somewhere.
Phil says, I haven't watched a Plus show since Hawkeye, but I'm willing to give She-Hulk a chance. Well,
good for you, man. I didn't think Black Phillip Alvarez would be interested in this at all, but I think he enjoyed the first couple. It sounds like he enjoyed the first couple episodes. I don't think he's writing home to mama about it, but I think I think it's solid enough to keep the Disney Plus subscription going for a few more weeks.
Mm-hmm. Kat says, given the structure of both episodes, this feels more like a binging show rather than weekly. Such abrupt endings and incomplete feeling scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Okay.
I think it feels like a binging show, but they're not going to do that because, it's the water cooler effect. It's the anticipation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if they drop it all at once, you want to get Disney Plus for a day, binge what you want to watch, and then it's over. Then you just have to wait until the end of the show and stay off the internet for 9 weeks.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. I don't mind. I think the show would be great on in a binging format, but I have no problem with the way they're doing them week to week. It seems fine to me. I don't have an issue with it as of now.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that my attention span is so brief anyway that just when I'm getting into something and then it ends, it's like, oh, thank God I can go do other things. But now it's like, okay, I'm looking forward. And this is, I remember back in the day, and I think this is partially of how we first met when we were watching WandaVision, and we were staying up until you were staying up until midnight. I was staying up until 3 a.m. to catch the episodes. And I'm not doing that now, but I am really enjoying waking up and being like, all right, start the day with Jennifer Walters. That's not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing. Black Phillip Alvarez says exactly right, Kat, especially with the short lengths. Yeah.
How did you feel about the CGI in this episode?
Oh, fine. Didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
There was one time where it looked a little off, but look, like I said last week, this is a new render for the effects people there. It's not like Bruce. They got Bruce down. They've been doing him for years. So I'm cutting them a little slack. It's a TV budget, so I mean, there's a definite strain on the VFX industry right now in Hollywood, so we'll cut them a little slack. But they, I think as this season progresses and then into the next season, you'll see marked improvement.
Mm-hmm. Slice Knight says, while 22 minutes is standard for a sitcom, this script felt like it was written for a 44-minute episode they cut in half. Well, it's interesting that it's a 9-episode season simply because we don't even have to worry about math. First 3 episodes, Act 1. Second 3 episodes, Act 2. Third 3 episodes, Act 3. So maybe you have a point. Like, not maybe. You do have a point, Kat, that may be better to binge all at once. But again, I'm fine with parsing it out. I'm okay with pacing.
Let's hope they do that. Let's hope the first 3 episodes are Act 1, then the next 3 Act 2, and the last 3 Act 3. That'd be great. I don't know that that's absolutely how they wrote it, but hopefully they did.
Kat continues to say, true. Blonsky demanded the serum, but he can't really control the effects, and his beef was with Bruce, not Harlem. But we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
The lovely Sherry. Hello, lady. It's good to see you. I haven't heard from you in a while. How are you? I know you can't answer, but I hope that you are tickled that I said hello.
And Jill says hi.
Obviously, Jill is no longer driving.
Yeah, and that's it. That's going to do it for us today, Scotty.
That is fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for showing up in the chat. We are nothing without having we're actually pretty good together without you guys, but it's so much nicer when you're here.
Yeah, we love to engage with the chat. It's fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic.
Bring up cool stuff that we might have missed, or have cool questions or observations. So we love going to the chat at the end of our shows and engaging there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what's up next, Scotty? Next, I think is going to be our bullets.
Our impromptu Sunday show.
Well, maybe. Well, there's nothing. The problem is, I was just thinking I was trying to rack my brain, but I don't think there's anything coming out worth a damn this weekend.
No, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing for the Sunday show is just so I have something to talk about. Is like I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I wanted to talk about that 2 weeks ago, and this week passed. I wanted to talk about Prey. So there's probably something in my pile of hoarding discs that I can watch and surprise you all and say, this is what I want to talk about this week. But I've been enjoying our Sunday talks.
Yeah, so look out for the Sunday impromptu Sunday show. We're probably most likely going to do one. I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, so stay tuned. And then obviously on Wednesday we'll be back with our Bullets, Blades, and Babes.
Destiny Turns on the radio.
Retrospective. And what are we watching next week?
It'll be Destiny Turns on the radio, something that I have not seen yet. And based on the
one time when it came out, and I remember not liking it. So
yes, and from the reviews that we sort of previewed last night after the show, it's not well regarded.
No.
So we will see what kind of cinematic experience Quentin Tarantino is in when he is not writing or directing.
Yes. Also Sunday, great show, House of the Dragon. If you haven't watched House of the Dragon yet, I think you should. I guess I need to find somebody to do a House of the Dragon after show with, because I'm really digging that show. Love the first episode, so. Maybe we can sneak those into our Sunday afternoon or night chats. I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't know. Well, I'll figure something out, because it'd be cool to talk about the episodes. I know everybody has a Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon after show, but we might as well throw our hat in the ring there too.
Well, everybody's having a great time using She-Hulk as a diaper, so I like the fact that we're actually using it as an air freshener. I like it.
And then coming up soon, in fact, on September 8th, Scotty and Jill, and I derivative Jill, will be doing a new show on the channel called In the Loop. Now, In the Loop is a Quantum Leap retrospective. And I believe, are we going to go every single episode?
I did ask Jill, and I said, are we going to do season by season, or are we going to do show by show? And it didn't take her long to say, no, we're doing episode by episode.
So every episode of Quantum Leap, the complete series.
My busted ass box set, but yeah, and so I got to talk to Jill about that and just find out if we're gonna do, because the first episode of Quantum Leap is a two-parter, but and we may cover both parts in the first episode.
And Genesis Part 2.
Yes, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Just because it's such a nice show. And right now, in these times of tension and anxiety and cynicism, we need a Dr. Sam Beckett to make us know that he made things right.
I'm just checking. We had some late chats come in, but it's just.
Is it about soy?
Yeah.
Oh, Kat's been watching House of the Dragon.
All right. Well, maybe Kat and I have to do an after show on Mondays or something, or Sunday evening. We can do our Sunday afternoon and then maybe do a Sunday evening.
Well, you talked about it. You talked about it last week, and I just sort of sat here and smiled and nodded. So it was, it was good. That was good.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay. Unless there's anything else, Scotty, do you have anything else you want to promote, or talk about, or
just
keep watching She-Hulk?
Keep watching She-Hulk.
It's good.
And as always, this show has been brought to you by our good friends at Cinema Gulp.
And the Black Phillip Alvarez channel.
And the Anti-Derivative Jill channel.
Mm-hmm.
We have so many sponsors.
All of our friends, both that come in the chat or hang out with us, on the Phantasmagorium Show Facebook group. They have their own channels. You should all visit, like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell, do all the things. And I think that'll do it. So for Scotty R37, I am Steve Foley. Have a great day, everybody.